Broadcasting live from New York, you are watching The Fix. It's about people, problems, and perspectives. I am Ohimaya Maize, your anchor on the show. Let's begin. Good evening and thanks for joining me tonight. I am Ohimaya Maize and you are watching The Fix, broadcasting live from New York. Before we get to the main interview tonight, let's begin by taking a look at some of the issues that trended on social media this week. Joining me in this segment now is Bonario Nags, Brian Dennis. Hello. Hey guys, how are you doing? And Mayu Beko. Mayu Beko will be joining us shortly. So what's been happening in Nigeria this week? a lot has been trending, but I want us to just take a quick look at the issue of the journalist, the Channels television journalist, and the wife, who the governor of Benue State had to mediate in their issue that was trending on social media this week. Let's take a look very quickly at the video of what she said moments after the governor of Benue State intervened in that issue. Let's take a look and then I'll come back to you guys.
First of all, I sincerely want to thank the government in the midst of your busy schedules. You've made out time to talk to us and advise us of taking your counsel, sir. And going forward, I intend to make my marriage work. I accept your apology, my husband, and to my people in Imo State. We were not happy about what happened at all. I please also want to plead with you to forgive my husband.
I can't hear. I don't know if I'm the only one that can't hear.
Also want to thank you.
Or if you can't hear what she's...
Yeah, I'm not even seeing the video. I don't know if I'm the only one experiencing that. Bonario, can you see it?
No, I can't see the video, but I could barely hear her though.
No, not okay.
My husband, and this time I need your prayers for my family and my children. We have
yeah, I can hear her, but I can't see the video.
Okay, I can hear her now, but I can't see the video.
Well, no problem.
Okay, but essentially, the governor mediated in that issue, and she's saying she's ready to make her marriage work. What do you guys think? I saw a couple of comments on Instablog yesterday. This is the most useless and insensitive step a state government will be taking instead of them pressing charges to curb domestic violence. That was a comment from Dr. Expensive on Instablog. Yes, but what do you guys think about the governor getting involved in this issue?
I think I will allow the married ones go first.
Well played, Bonario. Well played. Personally, I got more information regarding the couple, and it's not a pleasant story at all. You know, in Abuja, we all know ourselves, and eventually gist travels, and we hear inside gist of stuff. So the truth is that both the husband and the wife have been abusing themselves, and from the information that we got, it's more like the man has been the man has been the major victim actually. But regardless, it's the woman that went on social media to cry that her husband was beating her even after she did cesarean section and everything. So the man had to face the wrath of social media. But the governor intervening, I think that if he has the information that I have, then he should know that eventually one of them will kill the other person one day, because even from their neighbors and people that have been saying stuff like they are always fighting. So you cannot ask two people that are always fighting to go back home and resolve their matter. It's
right,
especially when one of them has come out to report the other party. No matter how you can say yes, the issue has been resolved, I think the man has that sense of this woman went on social media and it is going to affect him. People are calling for Channels TV to sack him, which they have not, and I strongly believe they will not because they have more information than they have more information. So I think that what Otom should have done, what the governor should have done was to call it to. I mean, he could have amicably advised them to separate, to end their marriage peacefully. He can even provide some kind of financial support for the woman who will
Yeah,
definitely need it more.
are you advocating for the end of the marriage?
I'm advocating for both of them to remain alive. We all know how Miriam Sanders issue turned out.
Hmm.
The family came in, resolved the issue, and the husband went to sleep on the same bed with his wife, and she woke up in the midnight and stabbed him to death. And that was the issue. So when things get heightened like this, even if they don't have to annul their marriage, at least they should take some time apart. That's what I would
Right.
advise. When things have gotten this messy, the couple should take some time apart
But
and
Nario,
rediscover
yeah,
and
yeah.
rediscover. Yeah, that's what I think.
Okay, well said, Brian. But Bonari, I'm curious to know what you think about what's going on.
Okay, first I would say when I saw the news trending, we've come of age on social media not to like jump on the bandwagon, especially when the news is trending newly. You need to give it like up to 2 days, 48 hours to get the real deal.
Right.
And that was what happened. I got to learn that the both of them have been beating each other all this while. Well, somebody was bold enough or was smart enough to come to the Ministry of Social Media Justice. you know, So and everybody were blaming the man, till people like us got to get the details. First and foremost, from experience, not my own family experience, but from my instances like this, there is a point of no return. They've gotten to that elastic limit. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
They've gotten to that, not just on this occasion, on several occasions.
Right.
Brian was saying, like I said, I wanted the married ones to go first. Like Brian was saying, them being alive is more important than them being in this forced union. There wasn't even a space for them to even like have a break. There should have been, even in the mediation process, everything was so hasty.
Right.
Everything was so hasty. You'll be forced to ask if the governor had another interest in the whole thing.
And the whole issue. Okay, I'm going to have to cut. I'm going to have to cut you at this point. I'm quickly bringing John Coach, who is joining us from California, United States. John Coach, we were talking about what happened this week about the governor of Benue State reconciling a married couple who had a fight. But we move very quickly from that issue now to the Hennessy Cypher 2020 that was trending yesterday. A lot of people are curious to know, and I would like to know, who do you think had the best lyrics yesterday? MI had some very good lines that were trending yesterday. I'll quickly play a clip from that, from the Hennessy artistry, from his performance. Let's take a look.
Aye, this is the moment. So if you were planning to drop today, please postpone it. M is rapping, and you know what happens when I zone in. Mouth foaming from body shots to your abdomen. Maybe I should call this verse atonement. Me and Hennessy, we reconnected like cellulars roaming. Back when I blew up like Ikeja Cantonment. We started this legacy, and I pray that it don't end. Me and VEC handled our business like a grown man, so the fans can stop beefing like Sega Link and the Coven. And by the way, we all should be feminists. No man should be offended by women empowered and outspoken who try to fix a country that rapes them and leaves them broken. We should fight for all our women instead of trying to provoke them. You see, Black Lives Matter, they really do, you see. All my life I've been going crazy, sort of like Jodeci. When I saw George Floyd, it was like I saw my own brother season.
Okay. Very quickly, in 1 minute, what do you guys think? Because we have to go to the next segment of the show. What do you guys think? Yeah.
Do I go first?
Yeah, go first.
Well, as an artist and as a rapper, I have to say what MI did with that 2 minutes is brilliant. MI summarized everything that's happened in Nigeria the past year in politics, in civil rights movement, in the internet. By internet, I mean the Twitter, the back and forth. He summarized everything in 2 minutes. And of course, he actually laid to rest the beef between him and Vector. So just cut the short story long, what MI did was brilliant. MI has always been a brilliant rapper. I've always been a big fan. MI is brilliant. There's no way to say it. It's a rap way. He did try.
All right, I'm so sorry because of our time. I have to let you guys go now, and hopefully next week we'll create more time for us to have a very interesting edition of Banter Square on the Fix with Ohimai. Thank you, John. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Bonario, for joining me today. And see you guys next. I'll see you guys next week.
All right, thank you for having us.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Okay. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday said he was disgusted by the international coverage of the NSAS protests. President Buhari criticized CNN and BBC for allegedly not rendering a balanced reportage of the protests. This is what he tweeted. Quote, "I was disgusted by the coverage, which did not give attention to the policemen that were killed, the stations that were burnt, and prisons that were opened." Unquote. Part of the tweet he tweeted on Wednesday evening. In the wake of the NSAS protests, which erupted across major cities of Nigeria last October, Nigerian security forces opened fire on peaceful protesters in Lekki, in the country's commercial capital of Lagos. At least 12 people were killed in that incident, according to Amnesty International. The massacre provoked widespread condemnation, both at home and abroad. Yesterday, as the world marked the International Human Rights Day, a number of activists, politicians, and celebrities connected to the Black Lives Matter movement wrote to President Buhari demanding justice for those allegedly attacked by police and who were jailed for taking part in the NSAS protests. In the letter signed by co-founder of Black Lives Matter, Opa Tumeti, singer Alicia Keys, actress Kerry Washington, climate activist Greta Thunberg, and 62 others, the group called for the ban on peaceful demonstrations in Nigeria to be lifted and to allow Nigerians to exercise their constitutional right to protest. Already there are talks about a second wave of NSAS protests in Nigeria. On Tuesday, a group known as the Northern Youth Leaders Forum said it will mobilize youths in 19 northern states and Abuja to resist the second wave of the NSAS protests. The group also alleged that the second phase of NSAS is an attempt to pave the way for a military coup and possible disintegration of the country. Meanwhile, Nigerian authorities have said that they will not allow the recurrence of NSAS protests. But would there have been any need for this second wave of NSAS if the Nigerian government did not mismanage the protests in October? My guest tonight is Salihu Tanko Yakasai. He is a special advisor on media to Umar Ganduje, the governor of Nigeria's northwestern Kano state. In October, Yakasai was suspended by the governor for criticizing President Buhari's handling of the NSAS protests. Tonight, he joins me to discuss recent developments in the country, from the rising wave of insecurity to marches arising from the NSAS protests. Thanks for joining me tonight, Salihu. Seems we're having some difficulty having him join us at this point. Okay, I had Salihu moments ago on set with me here, but I think he'll be joining us shortly. But essentially, while we wait for Salihu, these are the issues that have been going on social media about the second wave of the NSAS protests. President Buhari has said that he doesn't want the protests to happen anymore, but Nigerians have gone on the streets. Just last week, we saw people in Abuja and in Lagos coming out to protest. And what does all of this mean for the future of protests, civil society, young Nigerians wanting to express themselves in the future? Looking at what happened in Lagos, are there concerns that what happened in Lagos is going to happen again? So I think I have Salihu joining me now. Can you hear me? We lost him again. We're having trouble with our internet. Okay, I think he's here now with me. Hi, Salihu. Good to have you on the show
Hello,
tonight.
thank you so much for having me, and hello, everyone.
Yes, great. So before I brought you on, I gave a background of recent events, especially about the NSAS protest in Nigeria. And first, I wanted to ask you, you were suspended in October by your boss, the governor of Kano State, because of your criticism of the president's handling of the protest. I just wanted to know, and I'm sure some of our viewers would like to know, were you afraid of losing your job? How did you react when that happened?
Well, I wouldn't say that I was afraid. Perhaps I can't really say what I was expecting, because I think it was a spontaneous reaction. I didn't wake up.
Oh, I think we lost him briefly again, but let's hope he's able to reconnect and rejoin us. Hello, Salihu, can you hear me? Okay, so we lost him momentarily. I hope that the internet in Nigeria will get better and we'll be able to have this kind of conversations. These are very important conversations about.
Hello?
Okay, so glad to have you back. I was just saying that I hope the internet in Nigeria will get better so that we can have conversations like this regularly.
I pray it does, and I'm sorry for the poor network. It's out of my control, so I just have to manage.
Yeah, I understand.
Yes.
Please go ahead. Yeah, we lost you at some point speaking about you were not sure what you were expecting. It was a sudden, spontaneous reaction, but yeah.
Yeah, so and the reason, what the background to that was that, like I said earlier on, I was part of Occupy Nigeria protest. I think it was in 2011 or thereabout. And then at that time, if I'm not mistaken, uh, Kano was one of the first cities to came out on the streets fully and participated in that particular protest. And I was there on ground, and I know how we started. I think we were less than 20 at around 11 a.m. when we came out to the streets to start the Occupy Nigeria protest. So I know how it grew and how few days later it engulfed the country. I think for about 11 days, the country was basically grounded. So I have that experience with me, and I know how these things can easily escalate. That's on one hand. On the other hand, I've also seen a number of uprisings around the globe, and I know that some of the times people just need one reason to come out to the streets, and then there will be multiple of reasons that will keep people on the streets, and then of course after that there will be interference and other ulterior motives that will find their way into the protest, and then before you know it, your country is engulfed in one major problem. So I think that was what was really in my head at that time, and what I felt the government needed to take drastic action so that they can try and address the problem and try and, as much as possible, to see that the protest has come to an end peacefully.
Right. Just on Wednesday, the president from his official handle tweeted that it must be said that foreign press
Hello?
coverage of. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Hello?
You can't hear me? Hello?
Hello?
I can hear you. I think you have to log off and log back in. Okay, we lost connection again, and we're having challenges tonight connecting with Salihu. I hope that we can reconnect with him shortly again. He couldn't hear me moments ago. Let's hope that he's able to reconnect. Hello, Salihu. Are you able to join us again? Okay, so if you're just joining us, you're watching The Fix with Ohimai, and I've had Salihu Tanko Yakasai as my guest tonight. He was with us moments ago, but we've been having some challenges having him continue the interview, and hoping he's able to rejoin before we close tonight. And the conversation has been about NSAS, the second wave of NSAS, what it means for the future of this country. Why did we need to have a second wave? If the first protests were properly managed by the Nigerian government, there probably would not be need for the continued agitation that is going on right now. These are some of the issues we are looking at tonight. Just yesterday, a group of activists and politicians and celebrities in the United States wrote a letter, an open letter to President Muhammadu Buhari in commemoration of the International Human Rights Day, which was yesterday. And they were basically making some demands to the administration to allow peaceful protests to happen, to release people who have been arrested because they participated in NSAS, unfreeze their accounts that have been frozen. And these are the demands that they were making in that open letter to the president yesterday. And it's very interesting because under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, protests are guaranteed. So when the government says they will not allow anything like NSAS protests happen again, it goes contrary to the provisions of the Constitution. It is an infringement on the rights of Nigerians and their abilities to express their civic responsibilities and their rights. So it's a contradiction of democracy that citizens in a democracy are not allowed to protest. They are being shot at. They are being prosecuted in courts with all sort of claims and different type of allegations coming up. And it's really unfortunate that this is happening at this time in Nigeria. And I'm hoping that Salihu is able to rejoin us, but it looks like he's having technical troubles with joining us for the show tonight. But yeah, speaking about the second wave of NSAS, just last week, there were protests in Abuja and even in Lagos. We'll take a look at this, this video, which was tweeted in the course of one of the protests last week. Let's take a look at that very quickly. Okay, so yeah, that's a clip from the protest, the NSAS protest, the second wave of the NSAS protest that happened in Nigeria. That was a scene from Lagos that was captured by that Twitter user last week. But yesterday, like I said, a group of celebrities in the United States who are associated with the Black Lives Matter movement wrote an open letter to the Nigerian president, Muhammadu Buhari, and they had 4 demands that they made in that letter. I'll go through those demands very quickly. They say release all jailed protesters, activists, and journalists. This must include the reinstatement of their passports, bank accounts, and all confiscated government IDs. Hold all military, security, and intelligence officers or personnel found responsible for the killings at Lekki Tollgate on October 20, 2020, and around Nigeria throughout the protests accountable, whether for providing the order for brutality or engaging in the actual shooting, all must be held to account. And the third demand in that letter is permit a transparent investigation by independent human rights monitors into the actions that led to the killings at Lekki Tollgate and publish all findings in nationally and internationally accredited media broadcasts. And then they have the fourth item listed there, lift the ban on peaceful demonstrations all throughout Nigeria to allow Nigerians exercise their constitutional right to protest. These were the 4 demands made yesterday by that group, a group of American activists and celebrities and Nigerians in diaspora under the aegis of the group known as Diaspora Rising. They made those demands yesterday in an open letter that was published in the New York Times. But the question is, for a president that is currently attacking CNN and BBC in tweets on Twitter, whose government has come out to discredit an investigative report carried out by CNN, which showed clearly that Nigerian soldiers fired live bullets at peaceful protesters in Lagos on October 20. Is such a president willing to listen to this type of demands? So these are serious issues that we are looking at today. Salihu, you're back. Are you able to hear me now?
I think I can hear you now.
Okay, great. Great to have you back. So so we continue very quickly with the interview while we have the time to do that. So the president's tweet on Wednesday, it must be said that foreign press coverage of the NSAS violence was not balanced, especially from CNN and BBC. I was disgusted by the coverage. We did not give attention to the policemen that were killed, the stations that were burnt, and prisons that were opened. If you were the media handler of the president, would you allow this type of statement to be tweeted with the president's official handle? Does this not diminish the office of the president?
Well, I to be honest, I cannot speak on that, as I do not know the circumstances behind their reason for tweeting that. I do not know the facts or the reasons that they have behind the scenes that made them to tweet that. However, I think generally there are a lot of concerns, basically, on reportage of serious issues like this generally, and I think one has to understand how the media of today works. The media of today is mostly driven by is more or less like a business, and to be honest, they are always looking for news that would get attraction, that will get the attention of people and things like that. So to be honest, they are always trying to get news that that will become a headline and so on and so forth. So I think if you are in the media circle, especially in government, you have to be able to understand that perspective of the media of today, and then see how you can handle situations like this.
Well, I'll let you go on that because you are not the spokesperson of the president. But I'll move on to what happened yesterday. A group of celebrities and Nigerians in diaspora in the United States who are associated with the Black Lives Matter movement, they wrote an open letter to the president yesterday, and they made 4 demands. And I just read those demands before you came back on. Part of those demands include freezing the accounts of those who participated in the NSAS protests whose accounts were frozen, releasing those who have been arrested and are being prosecuted by the Nigerian government, and allow peaceful demonstrations to hold in Nigeria. Are these demands realistic demands that this group has made? What do you think?
Well, to be honest, I think for me personally, I think there's need to be able to separate some of these demands. Of course, on one hand, everybody has a right to peaceful protest, but unfortunately, from the way the NSAS protest ended, everyone knows that it ended violently, and sometimes in some places with the loss of lives. So it's very, very important to be able to understand how one, on one hand, wants to exercise his right to protest peacefully, but on the other hand, also the need to ensure the safety of others, the majority in terms. So it is on the there's need on the organizers to be able to ensure that there's it remains peaceful as it is intended, and no lives. They should make sure that no lives are lost in the protest of their in the cause of their protest. That's on one hand. On the other hand, if there are, for instance, in the instances where arrests were made, if there are any if the laws were broken, then I think it's on the part of the government or the police to be able to come to the public and say that, okay, so laws were broken by so individuals, and this is why we are arraigning them in the court, so that people will be able to know for themselves that yes, a crime was committed. Basically, communication is very, very important. In everything that you do, in every aspect of life, particularly in government. Communication is very, very important in the sense that it tells the rest of the world that this is why social decisions are being taken. At least if you put the facts out there, then those that are willing to see things objectively, can see that, yes, there's legitimacy in the particular course of action that the government has taken. But in the instances whereby there's no explanation, there's no communication as to why these decisions are taken, then there are bound to be consequences. There are bound to be reactions, negative ones, of course, to some of these decisions. So I think, by and large, we need to know the reasons behind some of these arrests, and there's need to be able to let the public know the reasons, facts, not just they participated in NSAS on this particular issue, and that is why they are being held. Specify what the crimes are or what the issues are, with facts, and then let the people judge you according to that.
Okay, there's been talk about the second wave of NSAS, and last week we saw some of those protests even in Lagos and in Abuja. But on Tuesday, a group that identifies itself as Northern Youth Leaders Forum said it's going to mobilize young people across the 19 northern states and Abuja to resist this attempt that it called an attempt for him to pave way for a military coup and to disintegrate the country. Is that what the NSAS protest is about? What's your take on this?
My take is that NSAS protest means a lot to a lot of people, to a lot of other groups. You understand? There are those that have the legitimate concerns, which is the main reason behind the protest. That is to end police brutality in some, in especially in the south, where the SARS have been known to go a little bit overboard in some of their activities. So you have that the main group that are behind that particular agitation to end the SARS. Then you also have, on the other hand, others that have other grievances that are using the platform of NSAS to come out and protest and demand for change in that particular issue that they are promoting. Then, of course, you have to some extent, the criminal elements that are using that to cause mayhem, particularly the hoodlums and the thugs and what have you. So, as you can see, there are a lot of interest in the NSAS protest, and by and large, I think it's because of how successful how successful the protests have been across the nation. So, of course, a lot of people see it as an avenue to come with their own agenda and try to find a space in it to push for that agenda. So, I am a bit worried that the issue is being put between it's a conflict between the South and the North. I think that's the dangerous path to take,
Right.
knowing the history of Nigeria and how uh, easily ethnic crisis and religious crisis tend to escalate. At the end of the day, once it's made about the South and the North, then the whole essence of the entire agitations, whether be it end police brutality and corruption and bad governance, whatever legitimate reasons out there, once you try to make it about the South versus the North, then it takes a completely different dimension that none of us would want to see it take that, because you know how things are, and it can easily escalate and turn to something that we all would not want to see. So I think let us focus on the issues. Let us try and remove sentiments. If the northern group feels there are some particular issues that they feel are out of the scope of the NSAS, let them highlight them and address them so that the organizers or the promoters of the NSAS movement can be able to see those issues. Maybe there are things that they can do differently so that that complaints can be addressed. But I seriously urge all not to make it ethnic or religious, not to give it that correlation.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear, but it seems your video is frozen. So can I have you just log off and rejoin again?
Okay.
Yes, please.
I can do that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's have. Okay, now I can see you. Yeah. So let's take a break from NSAS and talk about the Zaba Marine massacre, where at least 70 Nigerian farmers were brutally murdered by Boko Haram. You tweeted about that incident when it happened. You were very displeased with what happened. You said someone at least should have been fired. But what would you have done differently if you were the president?
I think that's a difficult question that I think no one can answer. I'm not the president, and I'm sure in the immediate near future, I won't be the president. But I think my concern with the daily loss of life that we are seeing in the country, particularly in northern Nigeria, is very alarming. We have become numb to these killings. It has started getting to a point whereby you don't feel a thing anymore. 10 people died, 20 died. You don't feel a thing anymore.
Right.
I think the humanity in us need to react. Especially the way that the Zabarimari massacre was carried out. They were slaughtered. It's devastating. It's heartbreaking to even think of it. As a Muslim, it's a religious right to slaughter the ram during the Eid period, but I find it hard to do. I am not cut out for that. And then for someone for someone like me that can do that, and then to imagine that over 43 people have been slaughtered like rams, and we saw photos and of them with their heads on their chest or on their backs. I mean, you got to move. You got to like talk. You have to ask, where are those that are supposed to take to provide security? Where are they? How can this thing happen? And it's not just one time thing. There are different times and different occasions where a number of people have been murdered. So it falls on us, to ask these questions. There's need to protect the lives and including the properties of the citizen, and this falls clearly on the government and those in charge. So this is what made me to post that, and I think it's sad. It's really sad that nothing has been done. There are measures that perhaps they've taken behind the scenes, but it's just sad. It breaks my heart to even talk about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. It's really sad. I mean, everybody was devastated when that happened. And there's been a lot of calls for service chiefs to be fired because people feel that it's going to probably, change the situation of things. You also called for that you said, at least you alluded to that in your tweet, that nobody has been fired about this. Do you think the firing the service chiefs would change anything?
Well, I want to believe some changes, the hierarchy of the military will give the perception that there's a new direction or a new course that's been shared by the government. I want to believe this is a general understanding that if there are some changes, that will perhaps be able to change the situation on ground. But on one hand, people want that to happen, but on the other hand, are we really just wanting the service chiefs to go, or are we really looking for a way for this insurgency and the insecurity to end? Because if you want the insecurity to end, then there are a lot of other things involved. Kano is one of the states that is very peaceful. Alhamdulillah for that. We thank God the Almighty.
I was going to ask you about that, so I'll come to that after this. So let's just go on.
Okay. So there are a lot of that. The point I wanted to make is that there are a lot of things that need to be taken into account. It's not just about sacking the service chiefs and doing some changes at the top of the military hierarchy. There are a lot of other things that need to be put in place, a lot of other things. And perhaps maybe when you come to the issue of Kano, I'll be able to highlight some of the things that we have done in Kano, as a government, and see if these are things that can be replicated at the federal government level, or if they are doing it, maybe we do not know about some of these things, perhaps. Like I said, communication is key. We need to understand what it is that they are doing, and appreciate the ones that are working, and then perhaps to some extent, ask for changes in the areas that these things are not working. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, last week I interviewed Undikato, a gender activist from Kaduna State, from the northwestern Nigeria, state of Kaduna, and she provided some insight and context into how some of these villagers in places like where the Zabamari massacre happened are usually caught between the brutality of the Nigerian army and the terror of Boko Haram. Let's take a look very quickly at what she said in this
Nigerian
video.
soldiers are trained to fight wars, but they are not trained to protect Nigerians. They are trained to shoot. They're very proud of it. Very, very proud of it. I've not seen a soldier in Nigeria that would tell me, you know what, my duty is to my nation and to protect what. No. They are trained to fight wars, but they're not trained to protect Nigerians. In fact, if we're in their way, we're dead. Any little thing, like there's such glee with how they refer to the opportunity to brutalize us. So my point is that at the end of the day, Nigerians don't think that this looks out for them. Right. Nigerians in this area have faced almost equal brutality on both ends. So they now have to negotiate to leave. Okay, Boko Haram, you say you want taxes here. I beg, we'll pay. We will not tell the soldiers you were here, please. We will just mind our business. Just leave us alone. When the soldiers come, please just leave us alone. Thank you. And they've learned to manage it like that. And every now and then, despite towing that careful line, they still fall casualty. So
Yeah. So just to summarize, yesterday the New York Times also in a report seemed to corroborate what Undikato said on this program last Friday. But how complicated is this situation of having the army brutalizing the people and Boko Haram terrorizing them, and these people being caught in between. Because if this issue is going to be resolved, then issues like this actually need to be looked into.
Well, first of all, I do not subscribe to the notion of generalization. You know, we might have some bad eggs in the military, but I know a lot of great soldiers that are sacrificing their lives daily for us to be safe and be kept safe. So I do not subscribe to the notion of generalization. Of course, there might be a few cases whereby, uh, you know, the army, are engaged or are caught in such brutality and what have you. But I do not subscribe to the notion of generalization, and that's on one hand. On the other hand, we've also had of instances whereby this the people also are sometimes accomplices in this insecurity. You have people that are sometimes providing information to the insurgencies. I'm not saying generally like in everybody, I'm just giving an example. There are instances where you have people that are giving information to the terrorists and aiding the insurgency, and the army has gotten, or the security forces in general have gotten some of these cases. So just trying to explain that some of these things also uh, give the army, a sense of a worry. It makes them to become suspicious of a lot of things that are happening. You never know who is a culprit. You're always on alert, not knowing if someone is an accomplice or if he's innocent. They operate in an extremely difficult terrain. I think it is important for us to understand that. Having said that, there's need for proper some of the activities that the army are engaged in are not something that they've been trained for. You understand? We have army personnel now mounting roadblocks along major highways, things like that. So there is need for general overhaul of what the Nigerian army is made of. There's also the issue of overstretching the army. These are legitimate concerns. There's also the issue of corruption in the army as well. Some of the junior personnel are complaining that their entitlements are not getting to them. There is the issue of lack of weaponry. Sometimes the insurgents have more sophisticated weapons than the army. So all these things put together, are issues that we need to holistically look at and find lasting solutions to them. It's something that demands the government to take in holistically and work towards resolving them. If not, you're going to have too many issues at one hand. If the morale of the army that are in the front line is extremely low, then you are bound to have the result that we are having. I remember at the inception, the beginning of this government, things were really on the right track. There was incentives, there was motivation. I don't know what happened afterwards. Couple of years after that, all that seems to be lost. So we need to ask ourselves, what is it that they did then that gave us that sense of victory? I remember at one time that the army staff said we've technically defeated Boko Haram, and that was the general feeling that there were no longer attacks. I remember when the people of Borno went out to perform their Eid prayer for the first time in how many years. These are success stories that we have seen in the past. But after that, things began to deteriorate again, and now they are taking a dive for the worse. So these are the things that they need to look into holistically. And I'm in government, and the reason why I keep saying is that before I get into government about 5 years ago, I have a completely different perception of what government is or how it works. But then I got in and I understand the intricacies involved in governance. So it is not as simple as people from the outside look at it. It's not that easy, you understand? And it's not also easy for the government to take some of the decisions that they take, you understand? But like I keep saying, communication is key. We do not expect you to come and tell us step by step, one by one, what you are doing, but try to make the people understand the process that you're doing, you understand? So that let them have that hope. Without hope, people, there won't be even humanity, because it is hope that keeps people alive. If people are hopeful that there is hope, let me give you an example of someone that is doing something and which has given people that hope. The governor of Borno State, you know, I keep saying that it's not his responsibility. He does not control the security forces, but he's always showing up. You understand? That is leadership. He shows up, he comes out, he goes to these places, he goes to his people, you understand, without even telling us the A and B and C of what he is doing. At least people are seeing it and they're appreciating the efforts he's putting into it across the divide. People in the south and people in the north, they are all appreciating the efforts that he's making. So this is a type of something that we need to see happening at the center, so that at least those in charge will be able to show us that yes, you know, they are in charge, and they have a plan, and even if it is not working, at least that will give hope to the rest of the country that at least they are doing their best.
Yeah, you spoke up as someone in government, and I'd like to know, is there something that northern elites and even state governors particularly can do to support the federal government beyond the condolence messages that they share among themselves anytime incidents like this happen?
Yeah, I don't know if it is
Is there something they can do that is concrete?
Yeah, I think it's very important. They have a larger role to play. The federal government is at the center, while the governors and the states, you know, are the men, are what constitutes the federal government, more or less. You know, so they have a larger role to play, to be honest. You understand? And one of the ways that they can help the federal government, for instance, just like I've given an example with the governor of Borno, let me also give an example with my own state, Kano State. You know, the state, first of all, there is synergy between the security agencies in Kano State. There is synergy in the sense that they operate together. There's information sharing between them. There's no jealousy. There's no, you know, they are not fighting one another. They work together. And this is one of the key to the success of the peaceful coexistence among Kano people. And so that's one. Then there's also something that the people in the state, really are helping the government with. That is information gathering. Understand? At the grassroots level, the people are cooperating with the government and security agencies, and providing information. Sometimes even before any crime is committed, you know, the security agencies are informed, and they step in and take the necessary action. I can tell you that a lot of the cases, if not almost 90% of the cases of kidnappings, the few times that we have them in Kano, were apprehended. You know, were apprehended because people provided the necessary information. You know, we've had instances whereby
So
even
if I
kidnappers.
hear another thing you're saying, sorry to cut in, you're saying it's like Kano has a sense of community that is not in other places.
Yes, I think there is that sense of working together in harmony. No, not just between the different stakeholders. I know that everywhere my governor goes, he asks people to cooperate with the security, and he also pleads with the security to be a bit welcoming to the people, so that they can be able to feel safe coming to them and providing the necessary information. I wanted to say that we've had instances where kidnappers operated elsewhere outside of Kano, and then brought their victims to Kano to hide, because perhaps it's a very big city. But they ended up being apprehended by the security forces because of what I've been saying in the past. So this is the type of help that states can render to the federal government to make its work easier. Another thing that I know the state government in Kano State have done is to help the security forces with some of the things they need to operate. I can tell you that there is a vehicle tracker that the state government bought worth over 400 million naira, one vehicle. It's used for tracking kidnappers. You know, the government bought it, donated it to the state, to the police, the DSS, and it's in operation now. And it has been in operation, and sometimes, it's being taken out of Kano, to be deployed in other states to assist them in their own cases. I know that currently now the state government is installing CCTV cameras and things like that. So even the state government is complementing the efforts of the federal government in equipping our personnel so that they have the necessary tools to operate, because they operate in our states. Provision of vehicles. They are one of our major forests, that is the Folgore forest, which is the one that extended to Kaduna and up to, I think, Niger State. At the end of the Kanu forest, we are building a over 500 million naira army training ground for the Nigerian army to come and to put their soldiers.
So you're saying all these things are not happening in other states like Kaduna and Katsina. So these things are not happening in those places?
If they are happening, I think, to be honest, I haven't heard of them. If they are trying their best in that regard, I think they need to tell the world that yes, this is the efforts they are doing in complementing the federal government in this regard, the security forces in that regard. And I also want to classify on the different nature of the insecurities, particularly in some of these states that you mentioned. You understand? While that of Katsina and to a large extent Zamfara is the issue of banditry, that
Right.
of Kaduna is a little bit different, because of course they have the issue of the banditry as well, but also have religious crisis and ethnic crisis as well between southern Kaduna and the northern part. So that also makes it a bit different than that of Kano. So what you do in solving the problem in Kaduna might not necessarily be the same strategy in solving that of Katsina State and maybe Zamfara to a large extent. And what you have in Borno is also totally different from the states that I've mentioned.
So it seems to me that Kano State is just lucky. It's not because the government is doing anything special. Kano State is lucky not to have these issues, these traditional, cultural, and socio-political realities that other states have.
Not necessarily. Yeah, we are lucky, alhamdulillah. Like I said, we thank God because we are always praying for peace to continue to reign in Kano. But if you know the history of Kano, how many times have we had religious crisis? How many times have we had ethnic crisis in Kano? We were used to having crisis, but we don't have them anymore. I think for the past 5 years since Ganduje came into office, we've not had one major crisis in Kano, whether religious or ethnic. That tells you that the government is doing something right. I want to believe, yes, luck played a role in it, but also the effort of the government also played a role in it, and the security forces as well. All the stakeholders, including the traditional rulers, are playing a role in ensuring that Kano is safe. And alhamdulillah, we thank God for that.
All right, before we close, young people in politics and government, are we ready in terms of the reality in Nigeria right now as young people? Are young Nigerians ready to play a role in politics and governance? What's your take?
I don't think we are ready. Well, let me exclude myself, because I've gotten to the stage where I don't consider myself a youth anymore. By the official definition of a youth. But I don't think the youth are ready. And one fundamental thing that they need to get right, is the unity. I cannot see how, more than 70% of the population perhaps fall within the age bracket of who we can call a youth, and then the youth allow themselves to be controlled by few elders and elites. That tells you that there is no unity. They are not united in what they do. They don't work together to get to the destination that they want to get. Once you begin to, I've participated in a lot of youth organizations and coalitions and what have you in the past. And one thing I can tell you that the moment you bring the youth together, issue of interest comes in, issue of godfatherism, issue of selfish interest, and so on and so forth. They come in and divide the youth. So if you do not have a united front, how do you expect yourself to be in charge, to take over, and to control? I think there is need to put our differences aside, come and work together and see how we can take over from these are grandfathers and parents that have refused to let to step aside and give us a chance. And another thing that I want to mention in this aspect is that when a youth gets into opportunity of leadership, you become the mirror of the rest of the youth that are out there. So what you do, by and large, has consequences on the rest of the youth that you are representing. So the few ones that have found themselves in government need to do everything. They have to sacrifice a lot to be able to stand out, to be able to say, if this is what the youth can do, we need to bring more of them in. But unfortunately, it's not always the case. You find out that once some of them get opportunity, they tend to do worse than those that we are criticizing daily. So if that's the case, then what's the difference between the older generation and the younger generation? There's no difference. At least the elder generation have more experience than the youth, and experience is one of the fundamental prerequisites of leadership. So I think it's important for the few that are in to be able to define what the youth leadership or youth in the position of authority, means to the rest of the youth, and it's important to set the right tone and the right image for others to say, okay, let's give more and more a chance.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me on The Fix with Ohimai tonight. And sincere apologies to our viewers for the technical glitches with trying to connect with Nigeria. It's one of the challenges we have to grapple with in terms of internet connection. I hope that things get better with the internet in Nigeria and we won't have to go through some of these issues again. Once again, Salihu, thanks for joining me tonight.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you everyone for listening.
All right, bye. And yes, that's how we close the show tonight on The Fix with Ohimai. Please join me next week, Friday, 7 p.m. GMT +1, 1 p.m. ET. I am Ohimai Amaize, and have a great weekend.
Broadcasting live from New York, you are watching The Fix. It's about people, problems, and perspectives. I am Ohimai Amaize, your anchor on the show.